Thank you for tuning into the Metal Forge. I am Mark Jackson and I'm your host. The premise of the show is pretty simple. Awesome interviews and awesome music. If you want to contact me, hit me up at metalforgeradio@gmail.com or visit the website metalforgeradio.com. And now, let's get this show on the road. Thank you for coming into the Metal Forge this week. I'm Mark Jackson. I'm your host. This week, Lips from the awesome Canadian metal band Anvil is here with us, and we're going to rock out to some old tunes. We're going to talk about his life as a musician and so much more. But, 2 weeks ago, I started a new feature on the show. I asked about coffee and what you were looking forward to in 2021. Last week, I said, hey, what other than CDs, vinyl, cassettes, music media do you collect from bands? And I do have some pretty cool answers to this. Mallory from the Patreon page, and thank you for your support. Thank you so much. Ticket stubs, which I always thought was a cool memento as well. It's kind of like when you go through your belongings and shit like that, and you find it, especially if you haven't seen it for a while, kind of reminds you of like, wow, I got to see this band and they played this awesome fucking song that I like. Like, I've always wanted to see Whiplash from Metallica played live, and I finally got to after 3 times of seeing them. So yeah, that's a super rad answer. Mick, the bassist from Wild Ride and the proprietor of Radical Rock and Record Reviews, he said pretty much everything. He can't just collect the one thing. He does the shirts, pins, patches, hats. He can't get enough of it, he says, which is pretty fucking cool. Andrew McKnight from Skyrider says tour posters. That is a super fucking cool deal. I'd love to get into that as well. The Metallica tours over the last few years, they've had like special event, hand done tour posters where they would sell them on the website and at the show. But I've always wanted to have like a complete collection of those because a lot of them are fucking amazing art. But I can't never get into like buying it because for one, I'd have to have them all framed because I'm that kind of guy. But the expense, because a lot of those were like $45 a piece and shit like that. And that's a lot of money. And then you take the framing on top of that. So this week's question, what is your holy grail find from a band? Like, what do you want that you have not been able to acquire? Be it pricing, availability, what? Tell me what it is. Shoot me the message. metalforgeradio@gmail.com. Hit me on Facebook, Instagram, Metal Forge Radio, so on and so forth. I want to know what your holy grail band find is. And I will tell you mine next week as well on the show. So it's that time of the show. I'm going to thank the sponsors, Mom's Music, Maxwell's House of Music. If you want to find any gear, go online, momsmusic.com, maxwellshouseofmusic.com. If you want to see them in store, Mom's Music is on Melwood Avenue in Louisville, Kentucky. Maxwell's House of Music is at 10th Street in Jeffersonville, Indiana. Also, want to thank Tattoo Charlie's on Preston and down in Lexington, Kentucky. Also, want to thank the Wrestling Steve Show and Better Days Records. This week, I want to give a super fucking awesome shout out to a new sponsor on the show, the It's Gonna Get Weird podcast featuring Frank Green and Scott Clark. Anywhere you can find my show, you can find theirs. The Spotify's, the Apple Music, all of that stuff. Look up It's Gonna Get Weird. Gonna, not going. Gonna. It's Gonna Get Weird. Super fucking cool dudes. Love those guys. Hilarious fucking show. I think you're gonna dig it. Also, to the Patreon subscribers out there, thank you so much. I love you guys. You guys are fucking awesome. So, who's ready for an oldie but a goodie? I know I am, and this is the song because it's what you crave. It's Metal on Metal. All right, Metalheads, I'm being joined on the line right now from Canada with Lips from Anvil. Lips, how you doing, man?
I'm doing okay, man. It's starting to get warm up here.
I mean, isn't that a myth? Doesn't it like hardly ever get warm though? Nah, I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, if you've never been here, then it's easy to get bullshitted.
Oh, absolutely. And, that's always been one of my goals. I want to try and at least make it to Canada. I want to see what it's like.
Right.
So,
what's it like? It's clean.
Right.
And everybody's polite.
For sure. For sure. So, first off, you just had a birthday here recently. Happy birthday.
Thanks, man.
You just turned 65. Still fucking rocking. Oh my gosh. Still rocking. Still.
That means free money from the government.
Social Security. Gotta
love. It's whatever. Retirement, right?
Right.
You start sending you money that you paid long time ago back to you.
Definitely. So still rocking. You're just about a year removed from the latest album, Legal at Last.
Right.
And obviously you released it February of last year, and now COVID hit. It sidelined the world from touring, and it looks like when I'm looking at your Facebook page here, you've got some dates that have been rescheduled for this September and on.
Yeah, there's definitely some hope there, but I don't know that it's going to go farther than that.
Right. And that's been one of the things that
you have to plan, because if you don't, you're not doing anything.
Exactly. And there's been so many bands who have sit there and planned to do things and not planned. And I've spoken with bands on here. It's like, hey, are you going to try and do something later this year? And they're like, no, because we already know it's not going to happen. For some instance, it's like they're going to get left in the dirt at some point, because if it does open up in, say, July or August, and then they're left scrambling the rest of the year.
Yeah, you can't sit there and do nothing constantly.
No,
and just wait for everything to open up. Because it's really fluid. Anything could happen at any moment, so it doesn't matter.
For sure.
So you make plans, and if they get blown out, then you make more plans, and you just keep doing that, because there's no other choice. I mean, if you want to sit back and wait and just wait, you're going to get, when it does go back, you're going to be one of the guys that is going to be in the back of the line. You got to know that.
Absolutely. With the big, the pandemic and the break, have you all started to write new material in that time?
Yeah, I'm almost done.
Oh my gosh!
I'm almost. I'm ready to go in. I'm supposed to go in the fall.
Wow!
Or August. I'm ready to go. It's like I've been, whatever. You don't waste any time.
Well, no.
Which we would have to do anyway. But right now, I would have been on the road. I would have been on the road all this time.
Absolutely.
You usually tour for about a year after you've put out an album. It takes you about a year to do all the touring. So you got to do about 200 dates in that period of time.
And then you come
back. And that's
back.
what we didn't get to do. We got 17 or 18 shows in, and then we haven't done anything since. That's it.
For sure. So that'll be the 19th album. Is there, and you're supposed to be going in and recording
Anvil 19. It's not COVID-19, it's Anvil 19.
Nice. That if that's the case, then that would be the only actual album without the blank and blank title, right?
No, but we're not going to do that.
I didn't figure you would.
I don't think so.
No, because, that is one of the things that you, over the last 40 years of the band, that I've always enjoyed is the album titles. Hard and Heavy, Hope and Hell, Strength of Steel, Plugged In Permanent. Tell me about the naming. How do you just sit there and come up with some of the names?
It's not easy. Everybody thinks it's easy to read it and look at it afterwards, but it's not easy to come up with the stuff.
Oh no,
because it's got to meet the standards of what you're trying to do, the parameters.
For sure,
it's got to pertain to the music, to the band, to
the idea
and the artwork.
Absolutely.
And it has to follow those. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. I mean, you can get really ridiculous with it. Obviously, I mean,
for sure, you absolutely could.
You could call an album Cheese and Crackers and have a giant piece of cheese fucking anvil and a bunch of crackers around it.
But that's not going to be 19 either.
Work, right?
No. I think most of the diehards would be like, what the fuck is this?
What the fuck happened there? What's that?
For sure.
But as even as we're laughing, it's still marketable, and we're laughing at it because it's actually there's a certain level of personality and memorability about it. But that's as soon as you use alliterations, and then you start mixing it with artwork, it creates a whole marketing strategy instantly.
For sure.
So these are the things, and they all have to pertain. Every cover has to pertain to the Anvil and how that pertains to the music or the title, or how it all kind of goes hand in hand. You're going to find a string of realities or a string of coincidences that aren't coincidences at all. They're all purposely put there, because nothing we've ever done doesn't come without a lot of scrutiny and thought.
Well, the thing is like, if you seriously think and take back to in the early 80s and on through the whole first lineup, I would just say, is you all were releasing the albums where the Anvil was the intricate part of the artwork and the naming was. And it also seems to be like other bands kind of took an idea from that. ZZ Top in particular.
The thing is, it's hard not to, because because we were way ahead of the curve, and as a result of being way ahead of the curve, that's why it took a fucking serious detour south. Because that's what happens a lot of times when the spearhead bands never seem to get the actual attention or the deserving fame that the recognition and actually go unknown. And some of that is it's what it is, and you got to accept it. It's not that it means it's bad. It just means that you're one of those bands. That's all. There's lots of different categories, lots of different ways, and there's many different ways to make a living and have a good life, and which I've done. So like people are very very stubborn in the way that they look at things. It's like, where's your money, and prove that you're famous? It's like, I don't know, man. Listen, right. The whole other side of this coin, if you start looking at it, you wouldn't believe all the millions that the big stars don't make. That's actually more the truth, rather than the over-exaggerated aspect of it. There's it's like, I don't know, you can't broad stroke things like that. You really can't. There's the actual statistics on making it. It must be so small little puny amount out of thousands of bands make it to the higher echelon.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that they're not successful.
For sure. I always like to look
doesn't mean that they're not successful, because let's face it, Motorhead never did as well as Journey. Okay,
that's exactly who I was going to throw out right there.
Get your fucking shit together and look at it from the right perspectives. And if you ask me, I have more respect for Motorhead than I ever did for Journey. But
right.
I like Journey and I have respect for them, but it's not the same. It's not the same thing. The underdogs and the guys who were the actual innovators and creators seem a lot more important to me as a musician than the bands that sell millions of records and sell to all the fucking sheep, right?
For sure.
Who don't know anything about music. All they know is, I like that song. That's all well and fine. But I'm certainly not going to be. I'm not, and I have nothing against bands that make it. Sure, that's all well and fine. But there are certain things that I like that never got big, and it's number one in my book, but not in the real world.
Right.
And for the most part, that's the same with most metal fans. Come on, let's face it. Why are we sitting there making in judgment about, like when we talk about metal, why are we sitting in judgment? These guys never got big, or these guys did get big. Why is anybody even ever talking about it? Because at the same time that we talk like that, the stuff that we tend to gravitate for. Have you ever heard of these guys? They're the best unknown band you ever fucking heard, and you want to know about it, right? Because that's the heart and soul of what metal was about. Let me hear the obscure.
Right.
It's bands like Budgie, bands like Motorhead, bands like Anvil, bands like Raven. These are all more underground bands that actually helped shape the whole shebang. And then all the big, huge bands on the outskirts used all the stuff in the center, these nucleus bands, as their forms of inspiration and influence. And they never got as famous. So you got to ask yourself at some point, what do you want to be? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do with your life?
Exactly. And you talk about being in the nucleus there, and I think bands like Motorhead and Anvil and Budgie and Diamond Head and Angel Witch, Blitzkrieg, all of those bands you're a nucleus band, and I do think you ultimately influenced so many others around you. And
Saxon as well. Many.
Saxon, yes.
It's really anything that didn't get that commercial success because they didn't have the bubblegum fucking pop song on the radio.
Right. And I think it took until...
And that's what happened. That's what happened in the 80s. It really turned into a fucking circus with that shit.
Oh, absolutely.
The really candy ass fucking wimp shit stuff that was completely, and it really effeminate. Not that there's something wrong with that, but it just became like that we had to start. You had to sometimes look twice because you couldn't tell whether it was a guy or a girl. Well, and it was done so pretentiously,
right.
And then of course the whole sexual revolution because of what happened with AIDS changed everything. So right. Including the whole backdrop of what was going on in as far as subject matter in bands and the way they dressed and the way they performed. It changed everything. So, yeah.
Which I've always thought was very interesting, too, because you kind of hit on the glam side of metal with, like, the Motley Crues and stuff like that. And I don't think a lot of people get that they were influenced by you guys and those type of bands as well as the Metallicas and the Slayers were.
Yeah, I'm sure that because let's put it this way: when I started out, there was no categories.
Right.
There were no categories. It's either you kicked ass or you didn't, and they called it hard rock. So it wasn't really until sometime after 1981 that they started actually identifying it as heavy metal. It predominantly came from the UK at that particular time. And that's not to say that that's where it originated, because come on, the Midwest sound from the USA, stuff like Grand Funk or the MC5 or Ted Nugent. I mean, come on, man, that's about as heavy as you could fucking get.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
When you look at the 70s, so you can't just say it came from one place. You know what I'm saying? At least not from my perspective.
Absolutely. Hang out for just a second. We're going to come right back. We're going to talk some more fucking Anvil. Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into the Metal Forge this week. I really appreciate every last one of you that listens. But before I go any further, I do want to tell you that we do have a Patreon page here. And there's 3 tiers. There's the Down and Dirty $1 tier. It's just $1. Hey, you're not going to miss $1. Nobody does. Then there's the $5 Showstoppers tier, which you get a patch, stickers, whatever we have that's in that price range. And then there's the $20 a month Master, where you can get a t-shirt, any size, any color of the Metal Forge logo. Fuck yeah, that's awesome stuff. Oh, and by the way, if you donate on there, guess what? You get the show 2 days in advance from everybody else. Thank you all so much. It's patreon.com/metalforgeradio. Check it out and donate today. I love you guys. Thank you.
Hey guys, Wrestling Steve of the Wrestling Steve Show here. So if you're currently listening to the Metal Forge with Mark Jackson, then you understand that Mark Jackson has a pretty discerning taste when it comes to music as a whole. You'll also understand that he has a discerning taste for professional wrestling, just like me. My show is called The Wrestling Steve Show. I talk about modern and classic pro wrestling in a completely unbiased, unfiltered way. Be sure to check me out on all available podcasting platforms. That is The Wrestling Steve Show. And I am the host, Wrestling Steve. Just remember, like Confucius said, man who goes through turnstile in Thailand is going to Bangkok. Pro wrestling.
With the idea of a new album coming out, and you're to track. You said you're supposed to be going in fall. Is this going to be another 12, 14 song album? Because that seems to be what you've done lately. It's like longer albums.
It'll be consistent to what we've been doing. Yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
And the thing is that I'm constant trying to evaluate how things are best to work in today's marketplace. And part of me is saying, and part of me is thinking, we probably shouldn't be releasing actual full CDs anymore.
This has been something.
Part of me really says that you get 13, 14 songs, put 1 or 2 songs out a month.
You know, that's actually really interesting that you bring that up, because over the last few months of shows here, some guests and I have been talking about the way the 7-inch market has come back for metal, and as opposed to, you know, the pop and shit genres like that, how vinyl has resurged for metal, and then you have so many people releasing like a 7-inch. It's kind of blurry there on the video. Yeah, I mean, I get that 100%. It's like, why would you release the whole 12 or 14 songs at one time when, you know, you stand to make something and then
it's
be
just
able...
that I'm kind of looking at, and look, if you look at it from a visible perspective, right?
Right.
To the public. Is it better to put out one album in January and then by February it's gone? Like, it's fucking gone.
And then you have to wait for to release something else.
And then next January they talk about the top albums last year, and everybody thinks that your album came out the year before.
Right. No, you're absolutely right.
So you're almost it'd almost be more intelligent is start in January and put out a couple songs and maybe a video. Come February, put out 1 song. Come March, put out 2. You know, come April, put out 1. You know what I mean? And you just kind of
absolutely no. That's actually a good idea.
Work your way through your whole repertoire from the one album, and then by the time you get to the end of the year, you're still putting out songs from the same group, the same
collection of music.
Stockpile of songs from that you would have put out at the beginning of year and completely forgotten.
Absolutely, and that's
how I think that's actually the reality of it. It's just a question of how long is it going to take before the business actually adjusts itself to run itself accordingly. That's the question.
Right. That's the interesting thing about it, is we've never been in a time where it's come back around to doing that until now. Whereas, you know, the 50s with rock and roll and the early 60s, from like 55 to like 65, it was all single oriented. You know, everybody went out and bought a 45, 7-inch, whatever you want to call it.
That's how when I started learning how to play, and when I started out as a kid, and it was affordable.
Right. $1, $2.50.
A 45 when I was a kid was something around like, could have been close to 70 cents or something.
Oh, wow. With the conversion rate to the people here in America that listen, that'd be about
50 cents. Yeah.
Right.
So for me, I remember I would save up. I'd get a 25 cents allowance from my dad, and it would take me 2 weeks, and I'd be able to go buy the new Rolling Stones, like, you know, go and get painted black, and I paid 50 cents for it.
Oh,
right?
My gosh. And then
I got 2 songs. I got it comes with 2 songs.
Yeah, you got the B-side.
You didn't. You see, that's the thing. The bigger bands were really clever because the B-sides were just as good as the A-side.
Right, absolutely.
You're actually, in a certain sense, you're getting two songs.
Right. Oh, absolutely. You know, that is like mind-boggling on like the way before he was sold to RCA with Elvis, that I always thought was interesting, is they would go and buy these B-side songs for like $50 from people, and they would buy the A-sides for like $500 or $1,000, and they were like, it's Elvis, you know you're going to make your money back. And it'd be just like his B-side.
Yeah, singles are. I mean, that was the whole energy of the way things worked, and the musicians themselves were aiming at writing a single.
Right.
That's all that you were out to do, because you weren't really thinking, I'm going to record an album. You were never thinking, I got a song that's going to sell millions of copies. That was the whole intention if you were going to go and record something at all.
You did 2 songs. For
Yeah,
sure.
2 songs to go on A and B. That's it. you
Right.
know?
And then it wasn't until the late 60s and especially into the 70s when the album rock came in. You know,
That's right.
where album rock was the thing.
You're right. It started to happen in the 60s. And I think it's really, the Beatles kind of changed it.
For sure.
I think and the Rolling Stones actually started to change it with by the time they were doing, and I would probably venture to say Rubber Soul.
Right.
Now albums were starting to actually really catch on.
Oh, for sure.
That's how we're talking about late 60s that actually started to happen. You know, that's when I started actually buying albums. So I guess if I use myself as a barometer on that, that's probably what I would say. I would say that in around 1967, 66, 67, you started buying records rather than singles.
For
At
sure.
least I did.
Right.
Because all of a sudden you're going, well, you know, especially in 67, like.
You had the first Doors album.
I had older siblings, so I had the advantage of being very young and being introduced to stuff that that kids would never hear.
Right.
You know, when I was 10 years old, I'm listening to Jimi Hendrix. It's like, hold on a minute, that something's not, what?
For sure.
You know, it's not like the other kids in my class knew what it was. Because, of course, I had older siblings who would be old enough to spend the whole $4, I think it was at the time, for an album.
And now they're $25 or more.
$3.79 maybe. I think it was like $3.79.
Oh my gosh.
But, yeah, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I mean, come on, man. What do you want? That's about my childhood. These are the memories that I have, and it would seem 100 miles away, and it took everything to save up for, and that's why I remember.
Right.
Otherwise, I would never. There's no way. But I can remember, you know, buying the Rolling Stones Between the Buttons album for $3.79.
Nice.
You know, because I had to save up every fucking penny to get that. That was a lot of money for a fucking 12-year-old, right?
Right, absolutely. So do you still have anything of your original collection?
Oh, absolutely. It's all sitting up. It's in the attic. I never look at it. It's not going to be for anybody to look at, I guess, until I'm long after I'm gone.
Oh, come on now. I mean, it's all digital now, of course, so you probably listen to it on the computer or phone, but it's nice to know that you still have that stuff.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. If I want to hear my old tunes, man, I just look it up on YouTube. I think 99.9% of it's there, and then some stuff I never even bothered buying. I can find.
Right. It's one of those things that's like how the music industry has changed so much just on media alone.
There's no real industry for music because music has become virtually free.
Right.
So the way that musicians make their money is, and your music is only worth something before it comes out, when you can talk somebody into buying the rights for it. But even owning the rights afterwards, good luck making money from it. But,
right.
I mean, it's turning into really, really fucking crazy shit going on out there. There was pledge music and things like that, and that's all gone because, like usual music business craziness, somebody ran with the money.
Right. Absolutely.
These are the things about it. It's just so precarious. So anything can happen, and it does. So, but I mean, you know, it's what can be said. It's what it all is. You know, it's fringe, marginal business. The best way I could describe it.
For sure.
And it's all under the table for the most part. People never admit what they make, even if they make money from it.
Right. So with what you were saying about rights to your music, we know the story how Metallica went back to Warner Brothers and bought their catalog back, and Paul McCartney finally got the Beatles catalog back. Is that something do you have the rights to the entire Anvil catalog?
Oh, no. They'll never ever give me my rights back.
Okay.
From my first 3 albums. They still own them to this day. And in those days you could sign a contract that was for life or forever. And that's what we did because we didn't know any better.
Right.
And that's the end of it. So they're gone. And we looked at trying to get it back, and there is no real way to get it back.
No, unless they sell it back to you.
It's a money maker for them, and they know that's the end of it.
Yeah, and they know that
and that's it. Why am I going to sell it back to the musician? This is a consistent money maker. Has been. See, the original label doesn't own it anymore. it was bought over by a big, huge conglomerate called Unidisc, which basically owns pretty much all Canadian music. They just bought out all the failed record companies and all their back catalogs.
Right.
They own one of the biggest Canadian distributors of Canadian music that there is, and they do not license to the USA.
Wow.
They'll sell down there, but they'll be there on import and whatever that they do business, the way they do business with the United States. So my first 3 records to this day are still on import, or are, even if they're available at all in the USA.
Right. For sure. I know I haven't seen copies of them in years.
Yeah, this has been the Anvil fucking plague that we caught on our first record deal that it never really healed.
Right, absolutely.
So, and it never will. So that's the business. That's what I'm trying to get at, is that there's a business behind this, but it's really almost criminal.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean,
let's put it this way. The kind of contract that I signed in 1980, when I signed that, doesn't exist today. It's unlawful.
Right.
You can't sign your rights away for a lifetime. There's no such thing.
No, and it's based on life of the album.
You can sign it up to a certain amount of years, and then it has to come back to the original owners.
For sure.
It's just the way. That's life, man.
Right.
But let's face it, come on, man. I've done lots of albums since, so it's all good.
Exactly. People talk about the Don Arden situation, with Black Sabbath, and how they got screwed so hard, but nobody goes to think about, bands like yours, or that happened the same way too. Motorhead got screwed over quite frequently as well.
I don't think that there's such thing
as any band that never has been.
If you meant anything in this business, if you mean something, or actually relevant in any shape or form, you will have been ripped off.
For sure.
At some point, by somebody. This comes with the business. Come on, man. You can't avoid it.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
It's like become a big drug dealer. Well, eventually you're going to get busted.
Definitely.
It just comes with it, right?
We're going to take a real quick break here, and it's always really fucking cool when I can debut a new sponsor on the Metal Forge. Check this shit out. I think you're going to dig it.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The documentary came out a little over a decade ago, and it's changed your life how?
I haven't done a delivery in 13, 14 years. That's pretty much changed.
Oh, absolutely. It
certainly made me world famous, and in doing so, it's given me endless work. It's not like it made me millions of dollars because I got seen. That's not the way that movies work, and I'm not a movie star because
it's you.
I didn't get paid. I did not get. No one who does a documentary gets paid.
Right.
This is a misconception. You don't get paid from the documentary. Where I get paid is I haven't stopped working.
Right. Since the movie came out.
But everybody has to understand that it's not from the money. It's not from the movie that I make a living. It's from making a living that I'm making a living.
Absolutely.
I actually have to go out and work.
Right.
If you can call it. To me, it's a permanent vacation because I haven't done a delivery in 13 or 14 years. So it's all good.
And you can do what you're doing right now. You're sitting at home, you're writing a new album, you're hoping to go on tour, and you will be going on tour eventually, and just living it up, playing, doing the rock life.
Being an Anvil.
Being an Anvil.
Being who and what I'm supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and shift some gears here. We're going to get into some general profile questions about lips here. What's your biggest pet peeve?
I think it's probably people who talk about my history and my music like they know about it and they've not listened to it. That really pisses me off.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of it. People have no familiarity whatsoever to the albums between Forged in Fire and Juggernaut of Justice, or let's just say This Is 13. All those albums. Right. 10 albums. For 20 years of my existence, no one's listened to these records, and then they talk about us like they have.
Understandable.
And that's I don't get it. I actually don't get it. Where does your opinion? Like, I mean, some of it is, some of the people that includes, or who it's phenomenal. Like, as an example, our old guitar player Dave Allison, who was in the original lineup. Well, we've become back to becoming friends again, I suppose you could say. And, like, here we are, some 35, 40 years after the fact, after he's been out, and it's like now he's saying that he likes the band.
Right.
As of only recent, like from Anvil is Anvil on, like that late.
Right.
So when you ask him, have you ever heard this specific song or this specific album? He goes, oh, it's all suck. It's all shit. It's all shit. Well, have you heard the song? No, I'm not familiar with it. Why are you giving me an opinion on something you haven't heard?
Exactly.
I don't understand that. You've already decided before you've even heard it that you don't like it. So it's not going to even if I play it for you and let you hear it now, you've already got the attitude you're not going to like it. Right. That's not going to help. That's a big problem in itself. That's how do you get past that stigma? And I really don't know. And you ask me what my pet peeve is. Well, that's a big one. No, because that's a huge injustice for a lot of work. There's a lot of work that has gone into. It's a lifetime of writing songs. Come on, man.
For sure, absolutely, I agree.
You're lumping it all in, just saying I don't like it, and you haven't.
And you never heard it.
Beyond me.
What is your favorite TV show growing up?
Twilight Zone, Star Trek.
Nice, absolutely. Who would be a dream musician you would ever want to meet or work with?
I'd probably have a good time working with Ted Nugent.
Oh, hell. Dude, politics aside from Ted, I could not imagine how awesome that would actually be. Because, I mean...
Oh, I don't even...
Here in America, he's really got the thing going.
I wouldn't even... I tried discussing his politics, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And as soon as you mention his name, it's like... Holy shit, man. Is that guy cause a shitstorm or what?
Oh, absolutely. Wow. Aside from that, he screams live. I think he's honestly one of two bands that I've ever seen that have actually made me nauseous to see live because they were so loud.
Oh.
He was one of them. And just... Like, you both play hollow bodies. You've got the hollow body V's, and his is the Birdland. And it's like, I could not imagine how screaming heavy that would be. So that's awesome. I
think that there's a lot of things in his... I could probably bring a lot of happiness to him.
I would hope so.
That he hasn't had in a long time. He's forgotten about because he's gotten too tied up in his fucking political fucking shit.
I agree.
He needs a little bit more rock and roll in his life, if you ask me.
Right.
That's my perception. He could use more.
Well,
and the more that he would add, the more people will like him again.
Right. He's like Gene Simmons. He's a teetotaler. He's never drank. He's never smoked. He's never done any drugs.
Yeah, that's power to him, man.
Yeah, it absolutely. What food can you not stand?
Crab, lobster.
Not a fan of the shellfish.
No, the shellfish.
Oh, understandable. What's the worst advice you've ever received?
Oh, it's usually people who are really, really stupid about the music business, and they come to, why don't you write a hit song?
Oh, that.
Or if I was you, I'd write a hit song. How about that one?
Absolutely. And yeah, that.
Yeah, what a thing to say to him is, if I was you, man, I'd write a hit song. Really? I never thought of that.
Yeah, I get that one all the time still. If you followed your dreams as a child, what would you be doing right now?
I'm doing it.
Absolutely. See that right there. You're doing it.
That's
awesome.
Doing it, man. My dad brought home a guitar when I was 10 years old, and I'm standing in the living room, and I'm going, this is what I'm doing.
Nice.
And I did.
Other than music, what do you invest too much time into?
Worrying.
Understandable. I get that a lot. I get anxiety over shit all the time.
Usually for no reason.
Right.
Usually it's almost like worrying just for the sake of it. I don't know, man. Maybe
Right.
I like to. I don't know. I haven't been able to figure it out. Lifelong problem.
Understandable. What is your most cringe-worthy moment on stage?
Ooh. Well, there's been a couple. We were at the Philadelphia Spectrum opening for Aerosmith, and there were at least a dozen record labels in the audience, and my rhythm guitar player was behind his Marshall stacks, puking his guts out.
Oh, wow.
He didn't play for most of the set.
Wow.
So we were supposed to be a 4-piece, and went out really as a 3-piece or a 4-piece with a drunken, fucking wasted guitar player.
Is that when you know?
That's pretty cringe-worthy.
That is.
And there's things that I prefer not to remember. That's
Right.
one of them.
That definitely. Some nerves got him too hardcore at that point.
Yeah, that's from overdoing it the night before. That's
okay. It wasn't nervousness because of the reps there.
No, it was a result of what happened the night before.
Okay. What's the last thing you watched on YouTube?
The sensational Alex Harvey band.
Ooh. Not an answer I would have expected from anybody else on the show.
They're an English rock band from the late 60s, early 70s, maybe.
I'm definitely going to have to check that out.
Kind of theatrical, but really good musicians. I mean, the bass player and the drummer were in Michael Schenker's group for quite some time. That's Ted and Chris Glenn.
Okay.
Of course, Ted passed away about a year ago. So,
who do you lean on outside of the band to receive an objective opinion?
oh, my wife.
She won't give you no shit, so she'll just tell you how she feels.
It doesn't matter. It's the brutal truth, man.
Right?
If you want an unfiltered truth, that's where to get it from.
Get it from the missus, absolutely.
Yeah.
What is something you've always wanted to be able to do, but you're not coordinated enough to do?
Good question. Probably. Well, I don't know about coordinated, but not coordination would be the problem. It's not enough background or not enough knowledge. I'd love to be able to be a mechanic and be able to, do the brakes on my car, or even
Okay.
That would be nice. Or even to be able to completely change to change a transmission or something.
Right on.
It'd be awesome to be able to do that.
Definitely. And I think a lot of people,
10,000 hours away, but whatever.
Right. What is your favorite word?
Hope.
Hell yeah. All right, we're going to take one last break, and we're coming right back with more Lips from Anvil. Since 1973, Tattoo Charlie's has been an established body modification studio in Kentucky, featuring world-renowned artists and piercers, currently with locations on Preston Highway and in Lexington, a staple point in the tattoo community. Learn more at TattooCharlies.com. Set up your appointment today at 7904 Preston Highway. Our tattoos are done while you wait.
Hey, it's Mark Maxwell at Maxwell's House of Music. Listen, all this stuff is now available to purchase on our website. Check it out at maxwellshouseofmusic.com.
We carry all the top brands, like Fender.
We got Gibson.
We also have basses.
We've got ukuleles.
We got drums.
We've got sound gear.
We've got keyboards!
What album can you listen to from front to back?
Deep Purple and rock.
Hell yeah. Simple enough.
Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick.
Yes, I'll agree with that. Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, because it's only 2 songs.
But it's an album.
Oh, it is. It is. It's absolutely... The spite that Ian Anderson had for that album was crazy, where he was like, you thought Aqualung was a concept? No, this is a concept. And
I love it. That's one of the, it's one of those albums. You don't just sit and listen to a little bit of it. You listen to the whole thing.
Absolutely. I agree.
That's what that record is to me.
For sure. Before I ask the last question, as always, in the description below, there's going to be links. This time it's going to be, of course, links to Anvil. You can get your merch, your tour dates, your Anvil Metal Pounders Union card. So many more things to find out about Anvil, their Instagram, their Facebook, so many things. Check them out. Click those links. Lips, do you have any shout-outs you want to give to anybody?
Oh, not really.
Right on.
Not really.
Right on.
I've been, I'm a busy guy, man. I'm trying to keep. I got to go now. I got to go get my shot. So
absolutely,
time to get out of here.
Absolutely. So last question: what album changed your life?
Probably the most impacted. Probably first Black Sabbath album.
Nice. Same here. Actually, was the first Black Sabbath album. Was absolutely crazy, and I heard it, and I never looked back.
Yeah, there's something about it. I mean, up until I heard that, I was a devoted Grand Funk nutcase.
And then,
then I heard that, and I went, "Oh, whoa!" Whoa! It's one thing. Certainly, Hendrix was a big, huge flip because that's when everything. But it was a flip, and once that happened, and it changed everything. It just not only my everything, but it changed guitar playing for everybody, and for the better. And that's part of what brought Grand Funk and Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin. If it wasn't for Hendrix, there wouldn't have been. So you could say that Are You Experienced? I could say Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced, or even Sgt. Pepper's for that matter, but more so Are You Experienced? But then it wasn't really. When I heard the Black Sabbath, and that's already after the Cream and all that, it was like, okay, it's much more defined riff rock.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's the best way that you could describe it. It's like, oh, no, wait a minute. That's this aspect of hard rock. It's all riff rock. This is a riff rock band. That's like where a succession of notes is being played over and over, and the singer is singing a melody over top of it.
For sure,
this is a new, a newer way of, the newfangled way of going about writing music. Certainly, it's a far different from the Beatles using every jazz chord and every possible permeation of chording to create melody. Here you've got something that you're just repeating a riff over, and you're singing a melody over the riff.
Oh, absolutely.
It's two different ways of writing music, and that's what I cite as being a big. It's sort of like that's like the Encyclopedia Britannica just came out.
For sure.
Rock.
Oh, absolutely.
Just chapters, but they recreated a real library of how to go about to write songs, at least to me.
No, I agree with you 100%. And I think they were, everybody has the debate of Black Sabbath versus Led Zeppelin of who created, quote, heavy metal, right? And I think with that is, I always say Black Sabbath because while the albums came out pretty close, the first albums came out pretty close with one another, Zeppelin was still more, I think, blues oriented, like the bands like Cream and the Yardbirds and bands like that, where Sabbath went completely the other direction and had this riff rock, as you say, and that's the truth, I think. And I think that changed the way metal and music came about.
To me, Led Zeppelin was the Cream with a separate singer, in a lot of ways.
Right.
I mean, it's Eric Clapton's buddy.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
Page was Eric Clapton's buddy. I don't know, but kind of. And then there was Jeff Beck. So the three of those guys are like the early Beck albums were sort of like Zeppelin-ish too.
Right.
Even I think they both did versions of "You Shook Me," as a matter of fact. So
I mean,
sure. It's not. I mean, they were all copying blues greats, the blues greats of from the Mississippi Delta area. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's the shit that the British rockers were really centering on and learning how to play their lead guitar from.
Right.
So it's blues based. But Black Sabbath, although did start out with a lot of blues based stuff, and they did something that was different in the sense that they used tritone. They used blue notes.
Yeah.
Which is much more influential as far as heavy metal is concerned, because just about every fucking metal band in the world now uses those scales in all of their music.
Oh, for sure.
It's everything, and it's not just one band. Every fucking band.
No, you're absolutely right.
So that's where it really different. Certainly the song Black Sabbath itself, right there is the ultimate, the blueprint right there. It's like, it's their identification. And son of a bitch, they called it after the name of their band. And it's like, these are the three notes. And if you're in the key of G, these are the three notes that it takes to be a Black Sabbath.
For sure.
The blue note, the dissident. And that has prevailed throughout hard rock, or what they call heavy metal exclusively. It's all of that, and so that's why I would say that they're much more pivotally important, and why it really opened up an aspect that is much more attached to today's world than Led Zeppelin ever were, in my opinion. So that's why.
No, I agree with you on that. That's for sure. Lips, thank you so much for coming in the Metal Forge today. We're pounding away, and off of the 18th album, Legal at Last, ironically enough, Legal at Last, 18 albums. Got a little bit of a double entendre there. What do you want me to play out?
Just play Legal at Last, and then at least people get introduced to it.
Hell yeah.
I should also mention, and this is complete so that everybody gets a chance to see it or listen to it. There's two songs that were released onto YouTube about 2 weeks ago, Nabbed in Nebraska and Winged Assassins, from a live stream that we did. Yeah, it's just another YouTube video, but it's not, because the sound quality is fucking awesome.
Hell yeah.
I think it's one of the best live recording sounds that I've seen of us out there. Best yet.
Awesome. There will be links to the two videos below in the description for people to click on and check these videos out as well. Okay, yeah. So it's Anti-Bar, if you want to look. Anti-Bar, Winged Assassins, and Nabbed in Nebraska. Those are the two songs. So if you YouTube those things, it should come up. Hell yeah. They're both there. Hell yeah. So, as he said, from the most recent album from Anvil, 18 of them, as we all know, this is the